Hey there, awesome child development student. I'm just presenting some information on these screencasts to help you with your children's book editing so that you know your expectations and everything is really clear. This children's book editing sheet should come with you every day to class. You will always print your story, staple it on the back, and that way each revision, as you can see, there's 4 copies that you'll need to print. For Mrs. Harbaugh or I to read. Okay, make sure your name is on it. Doesn't really look like name, there we go. And what block you are over there. We're going to pretend that I'm 2. It will become kind of a big, thick stack till we're done, but that's okay. Mrs. Harbaugh and I want to be able to look back and see how we graded you on certain things and just make sure that your story is the best that it can be. Let's look at copy 1 first. All right, we'll pretend that in class I gave you the date of May 10th as your deadline. Okay, so if you have that all completed, you should get 10 points automatically for your first set of points. The next thing we're going to look at is all sentences begin with capital letters and have punctuation at the end. That could be a period, question mark, exclamation point, that sort of thing. All right, we're all in high school. We should be able to have capital letters and punctuation at the end of each sentence. Let's look at our story. All right, this example is on the back of your children's book editing. You can follow along with me as I correct things, and you can also be doing all of these steps with your story as I do them on the screencast. All right, so little Kingston looked up from his seat and saw that it was almost time for recess. His teacher, Mrs. Harbaugh, smiled at him as she saw his quick feet swing back and forth in excitement. Class would soon be over and Kingston could run outside with his best friends. I see a problem, and that would be right here at recess. We need to put a period. So on your actual story, if you had this problem somewhere in your first page that you didn't have a period, you would go in and fix that before you print it. You're doing all these steps before you print them. All right, page 2, ding the bell, ding rang the bell, Kingston raced from his seat. Boom, Kingston shrieked as he bounced off of Brady's left arm and fell to, let me see. What should I put in there? I think maybe the word the ground would be good. Ouch, why did you hit me? Asked Kingston. Get away from me, you teeny baby. And I'm going to put in replied Brady. Now, why I actually have words missing is because sometimes when you guys hand work into me or previous students have handed work into me, they actually are missing words. It sounds right in their head, but it's not actually the correct thing. So make sure you fix anything like that. I can read through the rest. I don't see anywhere else that's missing capital letters or periods. So make sure you have all of those. The next thing we're worried about is setting. Okay, setting is introduced and highlighted where and when if both are important. So when I'm looking at my setting, I'm looking for a where and possibly a when. All right, so I see it's almost time for recess. So I'm going to highlight that because that's what time it is. That's the when. The where is actually a little bit later on in class, and your setting should be introduced sometime within the first page or 2. If you're doing a poem, it might not appear then, but for the most part, you want to have that setting right at the beginning so the reader knows what's going on. The next part for copy 1 is that characters are described well. You can either use 3 words or descriptive phrases for them, and that the plot of the story makes sense to your audience, a kindergartner. An example of something that wouldn't work well for your plot is kids talking about dating or sometimes maybe getting married is a little bit heavy for a 5-year-old. As you can see, I already put in my points. The teacher will actually do this, whether it's Mrs. Harbaugh or I, but just so you know, you get points for each section. Right off the bat, I can find some things that describe Kingston. Here is the word little. And I also have down here in the second sentence, quick feet, both describing Kingston. You need to make sure that you have a third one in your story before you print it out. Also, in copy 1, you need to make sure that the plot of your story makes sense to your audience, which is a kindergartner. And this talks about a little kid being in school, so just kind of my opinion, but I think it makes sense for a kindergartner. And once you have all of these things done, you need to print it out and staple a copy. You are now done with copy 1. Make sure that you have all of these things completed before you print it out. I do not want a paper handed to me with things added or deleted. I want it to be typed in. Make sure your name and your period are filled out and that you staple your copy to the back of this paper. These items will be filled out by the teacher that you give it to, and we will give it back to you as soon as we can. You can begin to work on copy 2 right here. These are the items that we're looking for, and this sheet is on Schoology if you need to refer back to it, and happy writing.